everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, if you don't know me, and today I'm very excited because I have a special guest joining me. As you can see, there's another person next to me. So this is Cath Finney, and she has her own YouTube channel, and she happens to be one of my best friends. So Cath, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming today.
Yes, in these strange circumstances, but I'm here.
Yeah, so we had to do, because of the virus and everything, we had to settle with Zoom. I'm sure everyone at this stage is very familiar with Zoom. So that's what we decided to do. It is a bit of a different video to my normal things, but I mean, that's the only way you can grow and learn, is to try different things and see what works and what doesn't. So yes, so can you tell us a bit about your YouTube channel, what you post on there, so that others know what to expect?
Right. So my YouTube channel is just Cath Finney, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm best at filming, but I do a variety of things, sit down videos, vlogs. I'm probably leaning more towards vlogs at the moment. I really enjoy those. But obviously it has been a little bit difficult because of COVID. I haven't been able to do the things that I would want to. So there are some sit down videos as well. Yeah. So if you're interested in those type of things, then definitely go have a look at that.
Yes, I'll include her YouTube channel in the description box below. So you're welcome to go check that out. I definitely recommend it. I really like your videos. Actually, when I watch your videos, I try to learn different things to incorporate into my own thing.
Yes. Well, we actually, everyone must go have a look, because we're going to be filming a video of both of us as well on my channel.
Yeah. So we're doing a collab type of thing. Yes, and I was also going to say that you probably wouldn't have started your YouTube channel if it wasn't for COVID. So even though it stopped you in a sense from recording what you want to record, it was also the start. So
definitely, yes, because I've had more free time to do it. So yeah, it was just an idea that came up during COVID when I was kind of bored. I was like, let me start this YouTube channel, and I've just carried it on. So
yeah, and I like how consistent you've been, and it's like always exciting.
Thank you. Yeah.
So as you can see by this title, we are going to be coming up with our New Year's resolutions and everything linked to that, because I thought it was fitting. We're nearing the end of the year. Most people are probably thinking about what they want to achieve the next year. I mean, everyone's always like, I'm going to the gym next year, and they're going to be new, better people. I don't know why, but I think it's easier for people to change when the year has changed, or when it's a different season. I think mentally it makes it easier for people to do that. So Cath, what has your experience been with New Year's resolutions? Have you ever set those? What do you actually define a New Year's resolution as?
Yeah, I haven't been the greatest at them, to be honest. I think I've always done the whole New Year, new me thing, and tried the gym thing and just realized, you know what, I'm not going to put pressure on myself like other people do, like have to be in the gym every day when it's a new year.
Yeah. So
I haven't been the greatest at them, to be honest. So I'm excited to see. I think because of COVID this year, I haven't done a lot of things, and I've kind of like put in the back of my mind and said, oh, but next year I'll do it. Next year I'll do it. So putting like pen to paper, I think it will make a difference and actually encourage me to do it. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about when people say, oh, I'm going to do it later and I'll do it next year, and what I've been thinking lately is that you never actually experience it differently. Like, I think in our heads we think the future feels different, but actually everything is always now. So how you are experiencing life now is going to be how you're going to experience it in the future. So what I mean by that is when you say, like, it entails you to make the action now if you want that to be your future. I don't know if that makes sense.
To be honest, like, as soon as the calendar flips to the 1st, I don't feel different to how I did the 31st.
Exactly.
So just because it's a new year doesn't mean it's exactly the same as today as tomorrow. It's exactly the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's like we tend to disassociate from the future. We're like, oh, my future being is going to do it, because it's easier to imagine somebody else doing it. But when it's like, you are your future person, the way you're experiencing yourself now is how you're going to experience yourself in the future. So yeah, so it entails you to like start now, like to actually, you're going to ultimately have to do the work if that's what you set for yourself, which I don't know, that's what I've been thinking lately, and it's kind of changed my perspective on things. But yeah, like my personal experience with New Year's resolutions, I mean, I was never a goal setter or anything like that. My mom always used to make me like, write your goals for next year. And because I didn't really care about them, I didn't put much effort into it. It was just random stuff. But I mean, what I find is that if stuff isn't important to you, you're probably not going to do it. I think your why and your commitment has to be very big, because if you plan on doing something a lot, it's not going to be worth it to go through that mess, if all that effort, if you're not interested in the outcome. So that's what I found. And something that's worked with me a lot is, instead of saying, I don't really like working with goals that much. I work more with actions and habits, because I feel like habits are things you can actually focus on daily, or daily actions are things you can focus on daily. So when you say, oh, I want to walk, like climb Mount Everest, example, you're going to have to do a number of steps in order to do that. And I think people would focus more on the goal and like the Mount Everest, and then days and days go by and you're still not taking action every single day. So I just think on a personal note, it's easier for me to like focus on small steps. And I remember one of our other friends, I won't mention her name, but like 2 years ago, she wrote down, it was near the end of the year, she wrote down all the things she wanted to do, but she said, I want to read a book a month. I want to learn Spanish every single day, and stuff like that. And when I saw that, it was more interesting to me, because it's more manageable. It's something that you can actually do instead of just imagining in the air, like la 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 la. Yeah, so I mean, since I adopted that strategy, I feel like I've got further in life, because I'm doing small steps every single day. Yeah. And also like with
so is it like,
what did you
I'm just asking, do you so it's very like time bound. So instead of setting, for example, with the reading books now, you said instead of saying I'm going to read 100 books in a year, you break it down and say, okay, I'm going to read one book in this time span. So it's, I would say, a bit more, not specific, but just easier like to manage. If you look at the time, instead of setting like an unrealistic goal of 100 books, you've broken it down and saying, okay, it's realistic to read one book a month, therefore I can read 12 books compared to 100 books in a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it still probably would work for me if I said I'm going to do 100 books, because then I'm very good with deadlines. So if I said you have to read 100 books, like I would have, even if we're in December, I would read 100 books, because I'm very dedicated to that thing. But I mean, like, another example was 44. I remember, I don't know, I think it was 2018, I had been really terrible with posting blogs. And because I was like, I don't have inspiration, so I can't post. And then I just honestly posted twice the whole year. And then at the end of the year, I was all like defeated, and I was like, that's not good enough. You need to do something different. So I said to myself, I'm going to post something once a month. And then that just meant that on the 31st of January, if I hadn't done it, because I was very committed to my goal, I would just write anything. And suddenly, amazingly, the inspiration would come. When there's a deadline, the inspiration comes. So that's what made me realize, when you're like, oh yeah, like I will do it. Like, you're not going to do it until you start doing it now. Like, your future self's not going to do it. You have to do it, ultimately. Yeah. So, I mean, that just personally worked for me. It doesn't necessarily have to work with everyone. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone has different things. And yeah, and I think it really does depend on your values as well. Like I say, that year where I decided to do what our friend had done with all the different goals, there were some things on my list, so I did the same thing, and then there were some things that I just disregarded after, a month, and then there was some which I'm still doing now. So it really depended. Sometimes you start doing something and then you say, okay, this doesn't really matter to me that much, to be honest. Or also if somebody's told you like you need to have this certain goal, and then it's not important to you, so you're not necessarily going to do it.
I agree. And I think a lot of the time, for example, if all your friends are doing something, you feel like you need to do that. And then if you start doing it and you realize, you know what, actually I don't want to do it. And I think it's okay to step back and just say, you know what, I don't want to do that. Yes, all my friends are doing it and they're happy doing it. But if I'm not reaping the benefits of doing it, then why should I? So I think it is important, like it's okay to have these New Year's resolutions, but if they don't work out, because if you've honestly tried to do it and you're not happy with it, then it's okay to step back and say, look, it's not for me. But it's on the other side of it, you can't say, oh, it's not for me, and you haven't even tried. So yeah, I think just trying.
Agree with you. I think if something doesn't resonate with you, you shouldn't do it. And I think also timing is also important. Like sometimes for me, I've been like, hey, I really want to be healthier and this and that, and that's been a priority. And then sometimes I've been like, you know what, I actually don't feel like doing that now. So it's not going to be beneficial or enjoyable. It's basically going to be a waste of time for me to do that. I'm going to get more satisfaction from not doing it than doing it. And then in the future, then maybe it feels different and it's easier to have that goal. But I do agree with that. You shouldn't just give up. And that links to, change is ultimately quite hard. If you've been living this particular way, it's hard to now start doing something different. And in order to build a habit, you have to do it many times in order to do that. And I think sometimes we can just default to what we're used to and in our little comfort zone, and our brain will be scared to do the other thing. And we're very conditioned to living a certain way. So I think in the beginning stages, you have to be quite conscious of what you're doing. You have to, before to have it, you have to say, Catherine, get up and go and do my exercise or whatever. And you have to, it's a choice you have to make every single day. But I think maybe after some time, it's something that becomes easier, I think.
I think it's also, in the beginning, it might seem like you're putting a lot more effort in, and then what's that thing? It takes 21 days to make it a habit. And as soon as it's a habit, you'll see like it feels like less effort because it's now a habit. Whereas in the beginning, it seemed like a lot of, like, for example, if you wanted to exercise 30 minutes every day, for just an example, in the beginning, it's going to be like, oh, I need to go exercise. But once you've gotten into that like routine and that habit, then it's very easy. Then that 30 minutes becomes 45, that 45 becomes an hour because you've gotten into that, that routine.
And maybe you're also seeing the benefits out of it. I find I'm better at sticking to things where I can, where it's like happier and better to actually do it than not to do it. Like you're not getting that much satisfaction from not doing it. So yes, I completely agree with you on that in that respect. Okay, cool. So I think I was going to say something else, but now I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. I wish there was like a notebook attached to our mind, and then the thought would just go on the notebook and we could refer back to it.
And then you just off what you said, everything you're thinking of. I know.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's hop into our different New Year's resolutions. I was gonna say something that I've always had in the past is a word for the year. And in the past, I've kind of, based on my memory, I've had sometimes going into the one year I said I'm going to say yes to everything. So I was trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and then I would say, okay, you have to go to the party if people invite you, or if there's a workshop or something, you have to say yes instead of just being a little hermit. So that was the one year. And then the next year I had like you can say no to things. So things that, because if I was saying yes, yes, yes to everything, and I was like, I don't actually like this stuff, exactly what we were talking about, where some values just aren't for you, some goals just aren't for you. So that year it was a complete opposite. I was like, I'm going to say no to things, or things that aren't serving me. And then, I mean, this year was more, it was, I can't remember what my last year one was. It's completely slipped my mind. But this year it was openness. I wanted to be more open. And it's just, I feel like it's nice having
Last year's not grateful.
It
Last year, was it not grateful? I think it was grateful. I think it was grateful. I think you told me it was grateful. Yeah.
I'm so impressed that you remember.
I was just thinking, oh, sure, because that's what you told me about the gratitude jar. So I think it was gratitude. I think it was gratitude.
Oh, yeah, gratitude. That's so cool. I love gratitude. I think that's so important. But I think the thing that happened last year was I went in and it was gratitude. And then what I ended up learning a lot that year was discipline. So what's interesting is you can have a word for the year and then you can also get something else out of it. Like, yeah, so, but anyway, I just thought it was nice to have a word of the year, because it's basically, like, I think it's nice to like set up the year or the theme that you'd like. And also when you make decisions, example was the say yes thing. When I made decision, I had to be like, okay, my word of the year is to say yes. So I have to like go do that stuff, and it would push me out of my comfort zone. But I mean, yeah, so I thought we could start with like coming up with our word for the year and what we'd like our year to be like. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that your year has to be like that, but it's just kind of a guiding post. When you make decisions, you can refer back to that word.
Yeah.
So do any words currently spring to mind?
I do have a word. It's, yeah, must I tell you the word?
Well, if you'd like, would you like to share it with us?
I can, yes. I think my word, just because of next year and everything that I'm hoping to happen. Okay, backstory, just so everyone knows. I'm planning to move overseas next year, and with that comes a lot of changes. So I think my word next year, well, I'm hoping my word for the year is going to be change. There's going to be a lot of change. I'm going to be moving. Yeah. Because I've explored everything that if I do move overseas, like this has to happen and this has to happen, and there's a lot of changes. So yeah, I think my word for the year is going to be change, like embracing the change.
Oh, I'm proud of you for having that, because change can be scary, but it's also so exciting as well. Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you think like changes are going to do to you as a person?
I think there's going to be a lot of new opportunities, meeting a lot of new people, discovering a lot about myself, like moving from Joburg to Cape Town, and then from Cape Town to Stellenbosch, and Stellenbosch back to Cape Town.
You've done a lot of
those were already, that was also a lot of change. But I think moving overseas is going to be even bigger, because I think when I moved to Cape Town, there was always like the security blanket of my brother's down the road. I mean, yes, I do have family overseas, but I think it becomes a lot more difficult when, you know, mom can't hop on a flight, 2-hour flight. It's mom can hop on a flight, but she'll be there.
You left your lunch at home, and hop on a plane and come give it to you.
I was never that child. Mom, I left my lunch at home. Oh, shame. Stop. You know. Yeah, and the funny thing is, it was mom. I left my lunch at home, and mom didn't know what my lunch was, because I made my own lunches for school. Yeah, so it was like, well, why did you leave your lunch at home? You knew what you made. Yeah, so I think with that, there's going to be finding new areas of myself, and I'm already extremely independent. So yeah, and then just obviously having to meet new people. I don't know anyone there besides my family. And a lot of new opportunities. Job searching, and it's going to be interesting.
I mean, it sounds very overwhelming, but you are such an independent person. I mean, in my head, I'm just like, you're gonna make friends, you're gonna become the absolute experts of the area. And I think it's because you really put yourself out there. and you don't just sit there like, oh, okay, like you try, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
And when you were speaking about making friends and how you don't know anyone, I remember when you moved to Stellenbosch, you were like, I don't know anyone, and you were all stressed out, and then within a week you had like 1,000 friends. So I definitely think that will happen when you're in.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was in matric, the first conversation I had with my mom, I said to her, you know, when I moved to Cape Town, I think I'm going to be the hermit. Like, I was moving to an all-girls race, and I said, I'm probably going to get the room like at the end of the corridor, and I'm just going to be in my room the whole day. And then I think she phoned me a week after I'd moved, and I was like, well, I'm actually running out. I'm going for lunch with whoever. And she was like, what happened to being the hermit? So yeah, I do think, and it's weird because if you think of moving to a new place, you always think like, how am I going to make friends? Like, where am I going to find the friends? But yeah, what's meant to be like, they'll come to you. You'll find friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you attract the people you need.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so funny that you thought you were going to be a hermit. You're the opposite of a
hermit. Yeah. I remember telling one of my friends, I think it was like halfway through the year, I was like, you know, we had a good friendship group then, and I said, you know, I thought I was going to be the hermit, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. I think day one in that race, I was like, hi everyone, I'm Catherine, and everyone was loud child. Yeah, and it was the same when I moved to Stellenbosch. Like, I think leaving my door open and everyone walking past, every time somebody walked past, I'd be like, hello, how are you?
But that's super nice. Yeah, it means that you're approachable and friendly, which you are.
And then also going to a new varsity last year, I was also like, oh, I don't know anyone, and a lot of them are a lot younger than me because I'd obviously now dropped out of 2 courses, so a lot of them had just come out of matric, and I was like, we're gonna have nothing to speak about. All they're gonna speak about is like, oh, last year in matric I got this mark, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be involved in those conversations. And then
you take last year?
That was the first day at varsity. They told me to write down all my marks I got in matric and like the subject and the mark. And I raised my hand. I was like, if we didn't matriculate last year and you don't remember, the lecturer was like, oh, it's fine, just leave it. And I wrote nothing because I literally could not remember. I was like, this is like 3 years ago. I don't know. Yeah, it's very
funny. That's so funny. Yeah. Okay,
but
so
it comes.
Yeah, I agree.
You learn to adapt also, really quickly if you're thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, like when I moved to varsity, I mean, I've spoken about this before, but when I went to varsity, I was like the same with you. I mean, we both went to places where there weren't very many people going there, so you couldn't just have all your friends from school. You had to make new friends. And in the beginning, like, it was kind of just I was making friends with people inside my class, and it was that was it. And it felt like I put so much pressure on myself because I felt like there was such a stigma of being by yourself, that like you always have to have people around you, always have to have friends. And I felt so bad about myself because I didn't necessarily have friends. But then I feel like through that, I learned how to enjoy my own company and spend time by myself. And I was like, you know what? I don't actually need people all the time. I can perfectly well enjoy my own company and be independent. And then after that, like the next year, I met, I've spoken about it before, but Carly, I met her, and it was like a very instantaneous connection. But what's interesting is like, so I was like super happy that I met her. But when I look back at my life, I'm actually so grateful for the time where I didn't have friends, because in that period, I learned so much that it's just that whole time was as valuable as meeting Carly and having a really good connection with her. So I think it's cool because whether you have or you don't, like both of them are very valuable experiences.
And I think mine was the reverse of that. I'd made friends, and I think there was a month in Stellenbosch, and if anybody from Stellenbosch is watching this, hello, yes. I went through a stage where I was like, okay, I've made all these friends, and now I haven't had any time to myself. And like I mentioned before, my bedroom door was always open, and everyone was always in my room, and it was the same at the girls' race. all the girls were always in my room. And then in Stellenbosch, I went through like a month and I was like, you know what, I just need time to myself, and I'd lock my door. And if somebody banged on my door, I'd keep quiet and pretend I wasn't there when I was there, but I didn't want to speak to anyone. And I was like, can you leave me alone?
Yeah.
So I was the complete opposite. Like I'd made all these friends, and then I was like, you know what, I actually need like my own time. And then I'd walk out the room and people would be like, well, I was banging on your door, and I was like, yeah, I was sleeping. I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes, yeah, you need your own, you need your own time. Yeah.
And I think because you are more of an extroverted person, people may sometimes think that you can just have people around you all the time. And it's like, no, extroverts also get tired. They also need time by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's funny how you said that you just locked the door in that month. For me, it was like the opposite. I had my door locked no matter what. When people knocked out, I was not there ever. Okay, so for my word, so I think change is like a really good one. I think that definitely suits you. My word I chose this year was love. And just like, because I think like what's interesting is like in the past I've kind of like you know when people say like when you describe yourself, or like you choose the words that you like, or you choose your values, people will sometimes tend to be like loving, or they choose love. And for me, for some reason, I'd like didn't like that word. But like it's actually funny because my favorite phrase, funnily enough, is I love you. But like the word love, it was something I never really incorporated into my life. It was kind of just like a second choice type of thing. Other things are more important. I have other values. But then this year I went for a course at the André Retief Coaching Institute. I'll include the details below. But I went for his course, Andre's course, on timeline therapy and NLP. And there, like I realized, like because it was something that it was always on my mind. I was like, I feel like I don't feel like I'm a loving person, and that was like something that constantly would come up. And then through that course, I was kind of dealing with it. And then at the end, I realized, well, I actually do think I'm a loving person, but because of stuff in the past, like stuff even like from when I was a kid, I kind of like chopped that out of me. So I was like, I'm not a loving, or I'm like, I'm a cold person or whatever. I'm not a loving person. And it's interesting because now I'm like, hey, actually, I am a loving person, and I do want to incorporate more of that into my life. So yeah, so that's my word for next year. It's like funny because a few months ago I would have never imagined that I would choose that as a word.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah. So, and I don't exactly know what that means or whatever. I mean, it's just like a general love, like that feeling of love is just something that I want to have in my life. Oh, there's Hardy Dars. So
that's okay. I'm in Benoni. I know exactly what you mean. They are Hardy Dars. I know what you mean. In Sea Point, it's seagulls, and in Benoni, it's Hardy Dars. So it's fine. Funny. It's fine.
You guys not have Hardy Dars in Sea Point?
No. We just have seagulls, and and because I live right on the seafront, there are always seagulls. Like I've kind of gotten used to them, like, you know, when you block out the noise. But then whenever friends come over, they'll wake up like early hours of the morning. They'll be like, Cath, can you not hear the seagulls? I'm like, yeah, they're there, like, you know. So yeah, and then now, and you'd always told me about the Hardy Dars, and now I can hear them. Like whenever I hear it, I'm like, Hardy Dar.
It's so annoying when you're trying to record a video and then the Hardy Dars decide, we want to have a party.
Yes. Yeah.
What I've noticed is that things can be quiet, but as soon as you start recording, everyone's talking, there's cars going by, there's music, there's hooting.
As soon as you hit that record button, especially when I used to record on my phone, every person on my contact list wants to phone me or message me or is trying to get hold of me. But before that, my phone was as dry as a desert. No one was messaging me. But hit that record, I promise you. So if you're ever lonely, hit the record button. I promise you, everyone will phone you.
That's so
I mean, even now, before we're about to start filming this video, 2 people phoned me and I was like, I actually need to go. I'm filming a video. Like, bye.
So fun. Oh my gosh, they make so much noise.
Okay.
So now, like, moving on to our New Year's resolutions and stuff. You said earlier that you have, I think you said you have 2. I think you said that before we started filming. So would you like to share those?
So one of the New Year's resolutions or goals?
Well,
It's
what
kind
is a
of
New Year's resolution actually? Like what?
you see, because like mine, if I look at it, I don't know if it's a New Year's resolution or if it's a goal to achieve during the year. Because I know it's not going to happen on the 1st of January, but I have to. There's steps I need, like there are steps I need to take to get there. Otherwise, I can't just chill back and wait for it and be like I need to take steps in order to get
work with that. I mean, you were saying that New Year's resolutions don't really like work. I mean, what is New Year's? I'm going to be kinder, or I'm going to be nicer, or whatever. I mean, that's ultimately a goal, isn't it? Or like, I want to go to the gym every day for the next 4 years. That's a goal, isn't it? Like it's something.
My New Year's resolution or goal, and it's a big one because everything's so up in the air at the moment because of COVID. But my New Year's resolution is to get an internship overseas, and specifically in Manchester.
I see your
and
shirts,
I've kind of
is advertising that, much to my dad.
Yeah, so I've kind of
my dad
6'2" yesterday. 6'2".
He's probably going to refuse to watch this video just because of your shirt.
He'll click on it and see the shirts and be like, nah. Yeah. So before, which is interesting for me, is my last internship. I told no one where. There was one like Holy Grail hotel that I wanted to go to, and I told no one about it. I kept it real, like it was at the point where I needed to write it down on a piece of paper and like hand it into the lecturer of like where I wanted to go, and I wrote it like in the tiniest print ever so that no one in my class could see, and I folded the paper and I was like, yeah, and I told them, don't let anybody see. Like I was very secretive, and I think because I was so secretive, like I didn't put it into the universe, that they weren't accepting interns for that year, for this year. And then I was kind of like really upset. I was like, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I had no other hotels in mind, none whatsoever. And then the lecturer asked me, like, there's this one hotel, do you want to go there? And I was kind of like, I don't know. And then when I started speaking to not people in my course, but like friends and family about it, then she had already sent my to go for an interview. And then I got accepted for the interview, and I think speaking about it and putting it into the universe. So I'm still very much not telling people like the specific hotels. I've made it this, like I've told people I want to go to Manchester, and I mean, do a Google search and you'll see all the hotels in Manchester, and one of them is bound to be one that I'm wanting to go to. But I'm also not putting all my eggs in one basket, and I'm not saying I want to go to that specific hotel. There's numerous ones that I would be happily to go to. And then I've also said to myself, you know what, if none of the hotels in Manchester want to accept me, I'll go anywhere else in the UK except Liverpool. Anywhere in the UK. And if the UK doesn't work out, then I have a plan B, or a plan Z, whatever, because ABC to whatever is in the UK. So getting an intern overseas is a big,
well, that's a really good
thing I really want.
Goal. I mean, you're definitely going to get one. Like definitely.
Well, that's the thing. So I can't just wake up on the 1st and be like, okay, I'm gonna get it. Like I need to still work. There's still steps you need to take in order to get there. I mean, no hotel's gonna be like,
you can't
we'll just hire you.
Put inside, and then you're going to get a letter from someone if you haven't even applied.
Exactly. I mean, you still need to work. I still need to get the marks. I still need experience.
You were speaking about how you don't really like to talk about or tell people, maybe because you don't want it. Why is it that you?
I think that is, I think it's largely to do with like what happens if you don't get in, and then people are like, oh, aren't you so, I think that's to do with in matric the whole year. I was like, I'm going to fashion school. I'm going to fashion school. I don't need to worry about any of my marks because I got accepted into fashion school. I think it was in April, so it was the beginning of the year. And I think in matric year, I was the first to be accepted into a university or a college or whatever. And everyone was still waiting to get like pre-acceptance, whereas I had been accepted. In fact, funny story, they'd accepted me for that year. So it must have been before April. It must have been like in January or something, they'd accepted me, and then I had to write back to them and say like, wait, I'm still in matric. And then they said, okay, next year then. So I was very much like, oh, okay, well, I'm accepted, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously fashion didn't work out, and I still get people now that are like, that will send me a message and they'll be like, how's fashion school? And it's like, it was great for the first, well, it was actually awful, but I was there for about a month and a half, so it didn't really work out. And I think because of that, I don't really like to tell people, especially academics and work-wise, because I'm scared they'll come back and be like, oh, but weren't you supposed to be? So yeah.
And how does that feel when people ask you that?
In the beginning, it was very like hard to tell people, like, especially like in that year. So this was now 2017. A lot of people, like, I'd come, like the first time I came back home, people were like, oh, let's meet up. And like, I saw a lot of people from school then, and they were like, how's like school? And I was like, and then you kind of sit there and you're embarrassed because you didn't last that long. And it's like, and the only reason, like, and then they would be like, oh, what was the reason? And it's not because I was failing, it's just I didn't enjoy it. And it's hard to describe that to people because there's this huge stigma around like, well, if you don't enjoy it, just kind of like suck it up, you know, because it is a lot of money. But I was in the fortunate position where my parents were like, you know what, if you're not going to enjoy it now, you can't be doing it for the rest of your life. Like you can't like not enjoy the rest of your life. So it in the beginning it was hard. And then I think when I went to go study in Stellenbosch, and then that time it was because I was literally failing. I wasn't enjoying it, and I was also failing like all my subjects. And I think that was also very difficult to tell people, you know. But because now I'm successful in what I'm doing now, I think it's easier to tell people like, look, this and this didn't work out, but I'm so thankful that it didn't work out because I'm so successful in what I'm doing now. So like I said to my parents, I said to them, if it had been like everything switched around, like if I had gone to study hospitality management in first year, it probably wouldn't have worked out for me. I probably would have hated it. And I might be studying fashion this year. Like you said, timing earlier, you said timing is everything. So I think I'm very like, now it's easier to tell people like, look, this didn't work out, but this is what I'm doing now and I love it. So
maybe it's because you have a different perspective on it now, and maybe in the past you were possibly projecting your own feelings on other people, so maybe you thought that you were a failure, example, and now because you've lived the rest of it, you're like, oh yeah, like I actually wasn't a failure, that was part of my journey, that's made me who I am today. So because you're not ashamed of it, you might not care about what other people think, because you know in your heart that it was meant to be.
And also I've become a lot like, in the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, out of my year of matric, I'm the first one to like drop out. But then speaking to people, you actually realize so many other people have dropped out or changed courses, and it's completely normal. Like I've met people in Stellenbosch, I've met people in Cape Town that have also completely changed courses, and that's okay. You can change courses as many times as you want if you know in that position that you can. But it's become, at first it was very much, oh, I'm the only one, but now it's become like, in a sense, normalized, that you don't always get it right on the first try, and if you do get it right on the first try, then that's great. But you know, but sometimes it's just not what you want to do, so you move on.
And I mean, I think it's great that you followed your heart and didn't just suck it up and do it. You changed and did something that was right for you, and now look where you are now. You're getting marks that are completely different to the past, and it's like you're doing the thing that you're passionate about. And I mean, as you say, if you hadn't done that in the beginning, then maybe you would have failed, or it would have been different. So so
it's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
Sorry. Like you read that quote that's always like, if you hadn't gone to university and you hadn't picked a certain major, you wouldn't have met those specific people. And it's so true.
No,
like
if
I had done this, like if I had done this course in first year, I would have been with a completely different bunch of people. And I would never have met like my friends that I've met now, or I would never have met the friends from first year. I would never have met the friends from Stellenbosch. I would never have met the friends now. So everything happens for a reason. And also, if I had continued with fashion, I would have graduated, and I would have been stuck now without a job. And that was like, so now, like I've spoken to people that were in my course, they've just graduated and they can't get a job now because of COVID. So they studied fashion, and I would have been in the same position with them. Whereas I'm thankful now that I can still study online, you know, so everything works in its way.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is when you go and do, like, example, you go study and stuff, it's not just that part of your life that gets impacted, it's the whole part of your life, like everything. As you say, the friends you meet, the people you meet, the place that you lived. I mean, even something as small as the place that you live, or your next door neighbor, that's going to have an impact on you and who you are today. So so you said that your goal is to get an internship this year. So let's work with that one first, and then we'll talk about the other one. So what do you need to do in order to get this internship?
So my marks are a huge thing, because the university has actually just released a new thing that when placing students into internships next year, that the top students get top priority, which is something that I was really for last year, and I'd raised that concern because so we were looking for internships for the beginning of this year, at the end of last year, and I think everyone had been placed in internships except me, and I was really freaking out. Like I hadn't even gone for an interview, and one of my friends had started working in November, and I hadn't even gone for an interview yet. And I was just like, it's weird that people who bluntly were failing had failed, like you can only fail a maximum of 2 subjects and then you can still go for intern. They had failed and they were starting their internship. And for me, I was like, well, how is this working if you like for our internship is seen as an additional subject. It's seen as a subject. It's not seen as a job. How are people that are failing subjects like working, whereas I've gone beyond and I'm not getting placed anywhere?
So it seems
so now that they've taken, I mean, you can't just get the marks and then rock up and get the job. Obviously, there's a whole other things. But so the first one is definitely sticking to the marks that I've been getting, working just as hard. And I think I've really adapted to the online learning. So that's good. But also I've said to myself, like, if we do have to go back to campus, I was good in that last year as well. It is going to be, again, change. But I would adapt, you know. So the big one is the marks. And then the second one,
when you apply, which marks do you use to apply?
The internship next year.
So if you apply,
it's
so
all
is it this year's marks or next year's marks?
It'll be your marks from this year. So that's done and dusted. I can't change that now. And then it'll be your marks for half the year.
Okay, so half of next year. So it's all about June.
Okay. That's right. And then the other thing is experience. I mean, I've already had a lot of experience, and I'm so thankful that even though it was only 2 months, I worked internship this year at a really prestigious hotel. I don't think I'm allowed to. They're very too prestigious to name, basically. So I've got that, and they've always said to me, you know, I'm still in contact with people from the hotel, and I've always got that. They knew when I was starting internship, They asked me if I would, like before I'd started this year, they asked me if I would come back next year. And I said that option's always there. However, I am looking at going overseas, and they completely understood that. But they've always said, like, that's my backup plan. Like, I can always go back if they need, or if when they reopen or whatever. So there's experience, but I can't just live off like 2 months experience. I still need other experiences. So I am looking at doing like, not really part-time next year, in something hospitality related, so that I have something else to add. I mean, I have so much experience. That's also something, when I dropped out of fashion in Stellenbosch, without actually realizing it, I was doing all these jobs that are hospitality related, and that's added so much to my CV. So I've got like 2 years of hospitality things that I never even realized. I was just doing them because I was just doing them because it was fun and it was a way to make money, when actually it's added a lot of value to what I'm doing now. So
that's really cool. Like I'm thinking of all the things that you do, they were all very hospitality related, and you have that experience now. And
I kind of dropped that last year to focus. I dropped those things last year when I started studying hospitality, just to focus on my academics. And then this year I was going to get back into it after my internship. So internship is very hectic because you're working long hours and there was no time for part jobs. But then the last 6 months I was going to get back into it. And obviously because of COVID, hospitality sector got like completely destroyed. So hopefully next year, I mean, slowly a lot of the hotels are reopening. But I know a lot of them aren't accepting any interns now because already jobs are being cut short, hours are being cut short, and that's completely understandable. So hopefully next year there'll be a bigger boost and there'll be a bigger demand for interns or part-time workers or stuff like that, and then I can get back into that. Otherwise there's going to be like a blank spot on my CV, and that doesn't really look too good.
So how many internships would you actually like to apply to? What is your goal? How many do you want? Because you're going to have to apply.
Well, I don't mean in the UK?
Or wherever. So how, like, what is your aim in terms
I've got like 2 main hotels that I would be really chuffed if I got into. But then I've got, it's the same brand, but they scattered around the UK. So I could honestly apply to 1,000,001, because it is like 1,000,001 hotels, but just under the same brand. So okay, so there's 2 main ones that you're going to apply to, and then 1,000,001 other one. And then when do you have to apply to these places? Probably before, like I would say cutoff would be not cutoff, but I would start applying like starting in February after the whole festive maniac season.
Okay, cool. So you're going to start applying in February, and so are you going to apply to all of them in one go, or are you going to apply to one and then see if you make it and then apply to another one?
I probably will apply to like the top 2 and then hear from them, and then if nothing happens from there, then you start applying to more and more and more.
How long do you think it will take for them to get back to you?
The thing with the hospitality industry is there's a sense of urgency with everything you do. Obviously, because I mean, if a guest asks for a cup of coffee and 30 minutes later your guest is still waiting for a cup of coffee, that guest is long gone. They've gone somewhere else for that cup of coffee. It needs to be like fast. And I've noticed, even when I was working in industry, when an email comes in, you reply to it there and then. And when I obviously never knew that the lecturer had sent off my application, but I think it was like a day later we'd set up an interview time, and I remember it wasn't even like, in a week's your interview. It was like, tomorrow's your interview. It was like, okay. And then also I didn't wait long before and then also when I'd gone for my interview, I also didn't wait. I think I waited like 2 days which is not long for I mean, normally jobbing, like I've known people that wait, like, you know, you have to wait weeks before you find out if you've been accepted. And I'd waited, I think, 2 days. So that's the thing with hospitality.
Sounds like it's a very fast process.
Yeah.
And then when
I'm hoping it's the same there.
Yeah. When do you need the internship by? So when are you
so that's a nice thing as well with our varsity. Yeah, they're very flexible. So you have internship is supposed to be 6 months, but it can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So if you only do your internship for 3 months, that's still okay. So we're allowed to start doing internship on the 1st of July. Realistically for me, I won't be starting on the 1st of July because obviously I'm not going to move to a new country and then start working at a hotel. That's not realistic. I obviously need to move in somewhere and start settling down, and especially in hospitality, you need to know your external environments. And I think that I had the upper hand with that when I was working in industry now. Where I did intern was close to where I lived, so I knew the external environment. So if a guest came to me and was like, where can I go for this? Like, for example, I'm sick, I need medication, where can I go for this? I knew where the closest clicks or whatever was. And I noticed a lot of the other people were also a bit like unsure. And there were a couple of times that people who work in the hotel didn't know where the nearest whatever is, because it would be like an unusual request. But because I lived in the area, I knew all the surrounding shops or all the surrounding tourist attractions. So that's going to be something that I've already started looking at moving overseas, is that you need to know your external environment when it comes to guests, because I mean, a guest doesn't want to hear the word, oh, I don't know, or they do get quite annoyed when it's like, oh, I don't know, let me ask someone else. They want their answer now. So I think realistically for me, I'd probably only start on the 1st of August, which is a month after everyone else, but that's okay because I need time to settle down in that. But yeah, from the 1st of July, I mean,
well, moving
but this is all if things are normal.
So moving countries can be quite a big thing, and it's I mean, like, what cell phone contract are you going to get? Where are you going to buy your own food? You know, you have to figure those things out. So it makes sense.
Medical aid, your dentist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're starting a new life there.
Where am I going to go to the shops?
But I mean,
I'm not, and the thing is, I can hop in my car.
I was just going to say,
overlapping you. Say again.
I was going to say, I already commend you for wanting to go the extra mile and to learn the environment for your guests, instead of just being like, well, I don't live here, so I don't know where anything is. Like, you're being very professional about it.
But in the end, it actually, it will also benefit me, because I mean, as soon as you know your environment, like it's obviously going to benefit me as well, because I'm going to be like a tourist then in my own country. So a lot of the times, like example, when I worked at the hotel I was working at this year, if a guest wanted to do something, I would recommend something that I've done, like a tourist thing already. So I would say, oh, go do this, and I could tell them my experience, and then it would like encourage them to go. So I think if I had to move there like a month earlier and I've done those things, it's also like, as much as it's exciting for me to do it, it'll be beneficial that I could tell somebody else to go do it. And one of the things I've also started looking at now already is, I have the ease of, oh, I need to go get this, let me jump in my car and go get it. There, I'm not going to have a car. So I've already, it's absolutely crazy, but like, I'll be watching TV and they'll mention, like, because I watch a lot of British TV, they'll mention a store and I'll immediately Google it and I'll be like, okay, this is the store. Or they'll mention an area and I'll be like, where is that in relation to everywhere else? So I already know, like, okay, this is here in England, this is here, this is here. And then also like the you always look at because they work a lot on the trains. So I'll look at this line, I'll be like, okay, it will take me this long to get from here to there. So I started doing that already.
You've been doing your own research. I mean, it means you don't have to be there to actually do research. You're making use of the resources that you currently have. So basically, you are saying that you would want to get on the airplane possibly on the 1st of July, and then start working from the 1st of August. So in order for you to get on the plane and fly, I would imagine that you would need a job waiting for you. So how much time would you need as a warning?
A month.
A month.
Yeah, I'd say a month, because then you would need to start looking at accommodation and that type of thing and flights. So I would say a month.
So does that mean that you would want to know whether you have the internship by the 1st of June? Yeah. Okay, the 1st of June. And then do you have to do, because I think do you have British citizenship?
I have a British passport. So, when I get to, no, I wouldn't need that.
Yeah. Okay, so you can just rock up in England and you don't need to have a job waiting for you, fundamentally.
When you apply, so yeah, I'm not a citizen. I'm a citizen. I'm not a there's two words. I don't really know, but I know only after five years, I think you apply for the one. So
I think probably the residency. The residency is the one you have to apply for, because that means the living. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So basically, you would need to know that you have a job in England, hopefully Manchester, by the 1st of June. Then you obviously pack all that, and then by the 1st of July, around there, you would fly there and then spend the month getting to know the surroundings, getting to know your cell phone bill, all of that, and then you'll like to start working in August. And then how long would you like to work there for? Because you said that you can work between 3 to 6 months.
So I would apply for the internship for 6 months, and then hopefully what would happen is, while I'm working there, they'd offer you a job. If they don't offer you the job directly, you need to then ask, can I work here? And then if they say no, then you need to look at somewhere else.
Okay. And is next year your final year at university?
I will finish on the 30th of June.
Okay.
Internship is still seen as a subject. So it would still be seen as I'm still doing my 3rd year, but I officially finish at varsity on the 30th of June. So that is obviously if everything still goes to plan with COVID.
So that means that you don't have to come back to South Africa to finish some courses. You could basically work there and then get a job. Okay, cool.
I've come to terms that I would miss my graduation. Yes.
Okay, but then maybe at least you would have a job on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too phased with the whole graduation thing. Yeah, I've seen interesting ways that people have done it this year because of COVID, so I could do exactly the same. I can also have a Zoom graduation.
Yeah, I had a Zoom graduation because of lockdown.
Exactly. A lot of my friends have.
Yeah. Okay, so basically you need this internship by the 1st of June. You said that you're going to start applying in February, and then you also said that based on your experience, these places reply relatively quickly. So you say that you're going to apply to the first two, the main ones first, and then try hear back from them. So how long, and then you'll look at other places. So how much time would you like to pass before you start? So say you apply to place 1 and 2 and they don't reply to you straight away. How long is it going to be until you say, okay, let me just apply to place 3?
I'm very impatient.
You're very so probably very soon afterwards.
Yeah, like a month. Yeah.
Okay, so you would give them a month and then you would go other places. So basically you have February, March, April, May. You have 4 months basically to apply. Okay, and what do you think about applying to more than 2 at the same time?
I think if the first 2 don't work out, then I would start applying to more places in batches. So
okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then you say that so you've done research on some of the places and you know this one particular thing. Are you going to do more research?
Oh, yes.
Or are you going to find other places?
Yeah. I think when I started looking at after the first place this year didn't work out. So at the end of last year, when I was looking at places and the first place I wanted to go to didn't work out, I did a lot of research in a lot of different places. And I think I was still doing research when I'd already been accepted. I was still doing research.
Yeah.
The more you know about the place, the better, because tourists are always wanting to know about like the hotel, the history and all of that. So you never stop doing research. I mean, I still keep up to date with where I worked. They still release their blogs every month, and I still keep up to date. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like you've been doing your own research and the extra work in order to find different places and to learn about the environments and all of that. Okay, so when you apply to these places, what are the different things besides marks and experience that they look for?
I think a lot of it also has to do with your values, and you need to make sure that, like, hotels always have, like, you go onto their pages, you always have to make sure that their values match yours. And that was one of the things where I worked at. I didn't even know that the two values were very aligned until I sat in the interview and they asked me what my values were. And then, thank goodness, they didn't ask me what the hotel's values were, because I had no idea what the hotel's values were. And they asked me what mine were. And then the lady that interviewed me was like, oh, that's what our values were. And I was like, yeah, that's why I applied. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was like,
yeah. But that's nice, you were being authentic, and that just happened to match up with them.
But I think that, and I think with where I worked, I think there wasn't one day where somebody didn't mention in their morning or whatever shift, like the pre-brief before you start, there was not one pre-brief before you started working where they didn't mention those values. So where I worked, it was a very big thing.
So what are your
I think
values?
That's also something. Mine is definitely integrity, loyalty, trust. I think those are the main ones. If I think at the top of my head, I think those are the ones. I said in the interview as well.
And what do you think about the idea of working for someone who doesn't share those values?
I would never apply there. There's also, like, when I was doing research last year before I found this hotel that I really wanted to go to, there were a couple of hotels, and when you're researching, you can see it's like, I'm not going to fit in. Like, I'm just not. It's not going to be. It's not going to be a pleasant experience. So you would never apply there. Like I know people from my course that went to they know that they want to be in the hospitality industry, but when they went to intern, they hated it. And then I posed the question. I was like, did you hate what you were doing, or did you hate like the environment? Was it that you hated, the whole thing, or was it just the establishment? I'm thankful that where I worked, I loved every minute of it.
So then that would influence when you're busy looking for different hotels. I would imagine that your two main ones have those values that you share. So the other ones would then you would obviously search for their values and to see if you line up with that before applying to them.
And I think I know this might sound a little bit like not snobbish, but just I think it's just because I have a very high work ethic. I wouldn't want to work at a place that doesn't have that high work ethic. So obviously in hotels, you get rated by stars, and stars doesn't mean like a 3-star hotel. Some 3-star hotels, they have a very high work ethic. So it's not only looking like, yes, it's nice to be like, I'm only going to work at 5 stars, or now in Dubai, there's like 6-7 stars, but you need to make sure that where you work, they have that high. Like, I would never apply for a 3-star hotel if they don't have that same work ethic, because at the end of the day you will be abused where you work. Like you will be working double what other people, because they will see you have that high work ethic. So it's definitely something. And definitely.
Okay, cool. So that would be another value.
It needs to be
high work ethic, like very professional, maybe, like top of
high. I would also say high level of service. It needs to be very top notch. Not like, for example, I would never work at a backpackers. There's a lot of people in my course that they want to work. They did their interns at backpackers because they want to own their own backpackers one day. Whereas for me, I would never want to work at a backpackers because I could never, like, it's not high level of service because it's very like self-catering, you know, all of that. So it needs to be somewhere that professionalism, high level of service.
And then when you apply to these places, so is the first round you kind of just send your applications in, and then are there interviews that follow that? So in an interview, are you going to ask them questions about their values and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was something when I went for an interview for my first internship, that was something I had like already made notes of questions, because I think often when people go to interviews, they get asked all the questions and you never ask questions. And I remember the lady that interviewed me said it was refreshing that that I had asked her questions about the place. Because normally when you are like, you sit in an interview and you're asking someone questions, and if that applicant is not asking you questions, it means they're not really interested in the establishment. Whereas I was showing interest because I was asking those questions. It shows that you are actually interested in the job. You're not applying because you just want a job. You're applying because you actually want the job there at that establishment. And that makes a big difference.
But I think also it's good because you're seeing if you fit into that culture. I mean, if you ask them a question and they're like, exactly. Oh yeah, like we do all these shady things, then, you know, are you going to work for a place like that? So I mean, it means that you have enough respect for yourself to check that you're actually working with in a place that would bring you ultimate happiness in the future, which I think is great. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're going to start applying to all these things. And then also, what other things do you think you can do in order to, or not bribing, but other things that you can do in order to get a job besides just applying?
I haven't really thought of that, to be honest with you. I think I haven't really thought of it. I think it is a bit difficult. I was kind of thinking, you know, like, should I try form connections? But it is a bit difficult now, especially because people are very sensitive with their jobs at the moment. Like, that it doesn't want to come across as like, oh, I want to steal your job, like, you know. So yeah, I was thinking of reaching out, like, because a lot of people are being retrenched in the hospitality industry at large at the moment. A lot of people have lost their jobs. So when you start questioning, it's like,
but do you think that would be the case for every single person you spoke to?
Maybe not. Maybe I would start reaching out. But I think that would only come when I start applying to places as well. If I need to start looking for new places to apply to, I'd probably start reaching out to people and being like, hi, do you know of any places? Do you have any connections?
But also, what do you think about asking employees how their experience is working there? So say if you really like a hotel and now you find someone who works there, could you maybe reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking of applying there. What is your place like? Or, you know, something like that.
So actually, when I found out that my CV had been sent to where I worked this year, the first thing I did was I found out which student was working there at the time, like during their internship, the higher grade student that was working there. And I reached out to him and I'd spoken to him and I was like, how's your experience? And like you said, like asking about the work there, because I was very much like, what happens if that person, and I think also because he was someone that I'd made friends with at varsity, so our values were also aligned, and I knew like where he was working, it would be somewhere that I would enjoy, like we had the same kind of the same kind of values. So speaking to him, and then he also helped a lot, I think, because he had told me, oh, these were the questions they asked him in the interview, you need to know this, you need to know that, and that helped a lot, because I think they did ask a lot of the questions that he told me, and he'd given me like extra information that wasn't found on the website that they asked about, and you could see they were kind of like, how do you know that? So yeah, I think it is a good thing, and maybe I would look at that.
Well, maybe you could look up internship, because on LinkedIn some people put their internship, so maybe if they've done an internship at that place, and maybe they've even gone and worked somewhere else, it could be quite valuable to reach out to the internship person, because they, as you say, they can give you the internship advice.
That's actually true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I'll probably look at that when I'm start applying in February. Yeah,
okay,
make
cool.
a note of that.
And then, make a note. What would you like to do between now and February with regards to this goal?
Well, when it comes to academics, I'm like chilling now because I'm on holiday. I worked very hard the whole year. I'm just chilling, but I think I'm going to start looking. When I get, so I'm in Joburg now. When I get back to Cape Town, which will probably be in about a week and a half, I'm going to start looking at applying to like part-time jobs in Cape Town.
Okay. So you're going to do research,
and I know it's going to be very difficult because it's festive period, and I had started doing that already, and a lot of the places had turned me down because they'd retrenched a lot of workers because a lot of they were on limited hours, and also the staff that were working there on reduced hours. So it's a very hard time now trying to find a job anywhere. So just trying to do that, looking for a part-time, and that doesn't mean like one job that's a lot of hours. It could be little jobs that's not a lot of hours. That would all add up to something.
Okay, so what type of job would you want?
Because it's hospitality and part-time jobs, I mean, you can't work you could work part-time in a hotel, but now it's not realistic. And it's something I would want to continue doing for the first 6 months of 2021. So it would be something that I need to know I still have enough time for my studies. So simple, like very easy things. So there's two kind of things. The first one is looking at just working at any food and beverage establishment. And I think working, I know this sounds so silly, but I never got to work in that department when I was in industry.
Well, that's not silly.
Because my internship got cut short. So we were supposed to explore every aspect of the hotel, but because my internship got short, I never got to. So probably looking at like a
what if
restaurant.
you love the food and beverage industry and you haven't really got to experience it? So I think
you don't know.
You want to explore that part of the hospitality industry.
But if that doesn't work, then I probably would look at not necessarily hotels, but like guest houses, working there at the front office.
Okay, cool. And then when would you
I haven't really made up my mind. I have probably February. Start again with varsity,
Okay, cool. Okay, so basically,
but I need
you need?
It needs to be emphasized that it's part-time and it can't like control my life, because I still need to focus on my academics.
Okay, cool. So basically when you go back to varsity in about a week or two, you're going to start looking for different part-time jobs, and preferably in the food and beverage industry, but then maybe also just, you said, the front of house, something like that. So you'd like to work in something that is very related to the hospitality industry.
I would never apply to do like an internship at an accounting firm. One, I probably wouldn't get in because I'd be like, what the hell are you studying? And two, because it would never benefit me going forward. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, it sounds like, how do you feel about everything now?
Good. Yeah, little steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you have a plan. I mean, it's not just, as you say, it's not just you sitting and being like internship and it comes flying. Now you have some steps to take and a direction to go in. And I think it's great.
At the same time, I've always, like, I told myself, especially now because of COVID, you need to be very flexible. So anything can happen. We could go into hard lockdown again and these things may not happen.
Yeah.
So it's just learning to be, adapting to that change. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you are a very adaptable person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you said that you want your year to have change.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, it sounds like, I was going to say it's great that you've also trying to have like a part-time job to add to your existing experience. Like you're trying to boost your CV, which is really, really great. Okay, so I know we said that we were going to do 2 goals, but I think maybe just from a time point of view, we only did that one.
That's fine.
And yeah.
That's cool. That's good.
Yeah. And then just like from interesting, because I know we said we're coming up with our New Year's resolutions, I kind of already came up with mine. But like what I'm going to do now.
Yeah, share it.
Yeah, okay. So I've said that like I want to get back into like being healthy and exercising and that. So I said like exercise and walk 30 minutes a day and then 15 minutes of core. So that's like for 45 minutes. And then I want to try to do it for 100 days because I feel like I'm better when I say only do it for 100 days because it's like, it's not like forever, and I think like that's manageable. So yeah. And then I also like want to give up. You would?
I would recommend who I look for on YouTube. I think I've mentioned to you before, but I didn't mention another aspect. Pamela Reif, she does really good YouTube videos and everything's for free. But at the same time, she releases everything in blocks. So like yesterday, she released all her videos for the next week. So she basically it's free, it's on YouTube, and it's 30-minute, every day is different. That's also the beauty. There's different videos for every day, so you can pick which video on a day, and she releases it every week. So every week she'll have a new, and with every day there's different videos. There's also different levels, so beginner, medium, expert. And you mentioned you wanted to do 15 minutes of core, and there's always a core exercise. And again, there's
cool.
ones with equipment, one without.
I have like looked it up before, but I'll like go look at that in greater depth. But thank you. You always give like really good suggestions.
Her stretching ones are also really good. Her stretching, like chill, cool down type of things as well, is also really good.
Okay, cool. Well, look at her. And then I also want to give up carbs for 100 days because I feel like that's the biggest thing.
Big one.
Carbs are so good though.
I would never survive. I can't survive without carbs for a day. So that's good luck with that one.
I gave
can't
up
really
carbs,
give advice.
like, the one in matric, I gave it up for a year. And it was one of those things where it was like extremely hard in the beginning, and then you just get used to it, and you don't crave it anymore. Yeah. So, but I mean, I just said 100 days. And then I've also got like doing morning pages every day, meditation, 2.5 liters of water, writing once a day. With that stuff that I'm already doing. Then I want to do a blog once a month. So I want to go back to that. And then also, a YouTube video every Saturday, which is what I'm currently doing. And then I was thinking of doing a Facebook Live once a month because I kind of miss like just doing Facebook Lives. Like it's not, I mean, even this is nice to actually have a conversation with somebody. Yeah, so those are all my things that I want to do next year. Yeah. Okay, well, that's I think pretty much the end of the video. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your experience and sharing like your goal. I mean, I know it's quite a personal thing, so I really want to thank you for that. And also just for so other people can see what coaching is more like, because I feel like this was kind of like a coaching session. I know some people may worry when they come to coaching, is it the super formal thing? But it's actually very chilled out, very informal, very conversational. And how do you think, because I've coached Cath before in the past and then through this, but how do you think coaching has helped you, if it has?
I like how you said it's very informal, because I also, when you asked me if you could coach me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so formal. But it's literally so chilled. And I think you're very easy to talk to. And like it's very like you'll sit there and be like, I'm not going to tell her this, but then it just blurts out because it's so easy. You know, it's very relaxed. Yeah, and I think also you hold people accountable. So I know I've said I'll do this, and then you'll be like, have you done that yet? And you'll be like, oh, no, I haven't. I should probably go do it. So yeah, there's definitely, I think the major thing for me is the accountability. Yeah, and also I think sometimes you think like this is what you want, but then when you start asking questions, it's like, actually this is what I want, and you kind of like steer the person into something. Yeah, but I think the two major things that people need to take out of it is that it's very much accountability, and also it's not like therapy where it's so formal and you feel so uncomfortable. You sit there like, I don't know what to say. It's very relaxed, friendly environment. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And like, I agree that coaching does bring an accountability factor into it. And again, it links to like when you say, oh, I want to do this, but then you don't go about setting, you don't do it. Like, you don't do the actions. And ultimately, if you want to reach a goal, you have to do those small steps every day. And I think a coach can really help you do those small steps and keep you accountable. And as you also say, like, find out if that goal is really the thing that you want. And I think that can really help with asking questions and finding, and like even sometimes asking the uncomfortable questions to find out like, what do you really want? Because I think what you really want is going to be the thing that brings you ultimate happiness, not just the stuff that society's telling you to do. Yeah, so,
exactly.
Yeah. But thank you very much for joining me. Like I say, I've included Cath's descriptions below of her. I'll include all her social medias below. So definitely go check out her channel. And then we've also made our own video on her channel. So go look at that video. I'll also include that below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Bye, guys.